Hey, how's it going, guys, and welcome back. Now that I've got a few hours into Dragon Quest Treasures under my belt, I'm very excited to share with you guys some of my tips and tricks for beginners that prove to be quite useful. Despite the smaller monster roster present within this game, it actually does have a lot of mechanics and features, some of which I cannot stress the importance of enough, so with that said, that's what we'll be doing today. Make sure to sit back, relax, and let's go over my 10 tips and tricks for Dragon Quest Treasures. Number 1, high-level enemies. Alright, so I do have a full video plan talking about this, however, I do want to mention that Dragon Quest Treasures is not a turn-based RPG, and allows for you to fight enemies in 4-on-1 scenarios in real-time combat, which means if you are skillful and reserved enough, you can actually defeat enemies that are much more powerful than you. Unlike Pokemon, where catching high-level Pokemon will make them not listen to you, here you'll actually be able to use them in battle just like any other monster, but with an immense power boost. Defeating these high-level beasts also gives you double XP if you happen to see a red color text above its head, so there's that too. If you want to learn more about the catching mechanic, you could definitely check out this video for more information. However, it's basically as simple as defeating them and potentially using a buddy pellet to increase that scouting chance. Number 2, don't sleep on pellets. So speaking of pellets, these are an insanely useful set of items that you should definitely be keeping track of. Essentially, you as a player can fight in combat, however, you're much more better situated from a distance where you could either stun, poison, or damage the enemies without risking taking damage to your own health. In this game, if you get knocked out, it doesn't matter what's up with your monsters, you'll black out and that's it. It's much easier to stand back, fight the enemy, heal your own monsters with healing pellets, rinse and repeat. Pellets can be bought in the various shops throughout the game, including the one in your own home base. That's unlocked via story progression, but they can also be found in crates scattered about as well. It's very important to know your role in this game and remember that you are not the DPS. Number 3, XP grinding. Okay, so next up is a little tip about experience points, and I've already mentioned that you can defeat really high enemies to gain extra XP, but that's a little risky and can be expensive if you are using pellets to stun and damage them. This is actually pretty simple. You'd expect slaying monsters to actually give the most amount of experience, but that's not really the case. If you're really trying to level up, I recommend just using treasure. If you've been watching my Let's Plays, you'll notice that treasure gives you much more experience when found than actually battling does, and this also has the added benefit of increasing the value of your base while you do it. So you can increase your experience points, increase your base rank, which will then increase the viability of your monsters, and it's just all around a really good thing to be working towards. It makes sense considering this game is called Dragon Quest Treasures that you'd have to be collecting treasure. Number 4, the importance of fortes. Fortes are non-combat abilities that your monsters will have. These consist of 5 different abilities, which include sprint, jump, stealth, scan, or glide. I mentioned this in our fortes video, but I cannot stress enough the importance of these. These abilities will allow you to explore areas in ways you'd otherwise be walled from, and honestly, focusing on which fortes you're bringing out with you to the field is more important than focusing on which monsters are best in terms of combat capability. I especially say that some of the important abilities to keep with you would include sprint, glide, and jump. The others are cool, but are more niche. Number 5, Dragon Meter. Okay, so the Dragon Meter is something that you'll notice on the bottom left corner of the screen that can be raised to a total of 3 stacks. This is done through fighting and just regular gameplay. However, it is easy to just go about your time not actually using it, and I do want to express how powerful it truly is. You could use it to initiate a mega attack with one of your monsters, or you can activate a Dragon Fury, which gives your character a buff in all of their stats, including movement speed. I think using monster attacks is a much better use of them, however, because these will kind of put you into a cutscene, letting you do a bunch of damage, and mostly keep the player character safe. These can do massive damage to even high-level enemies, so spamming 3 of them in a row can actually cut down really powerful foes that might otherwise take you out. Number 6, Expeditions. Alright, so in Dragon Quest Treasures, you have the option of sending out some of your boxed monsters on expeditions that will allow them to gather resources and sometimes even bring back treasure. This is why I do recommend trying to scout as many monsters as possible, even if some of them are duplicates, because you can always send them out to make use of them. You'll start with just 1 slot for an expedition team, but they'll slowly grow in numbers as your base is upgraded. This is great because you can basically send them out, they'll be set up on a timer, and then by the time you come back from your treasure hunting, they should be back to give you some extra spoils. It doesn't cost anything, can get you some pretty cool resources and extra treasure, so definitely make sure you're doing this and not sleeping on it. Number 7, gather everything. When monsters need to actually be recruited from the scouting menu, they're going to require gold and certain resources in order to actually spawn. Because of this, I do highly recommend making sure that you're gathering as much materials as you can, as it's very easy to just ignore all the plants, stones, etc. while looking for something. But if you do this, you're going to end up having issues recruiting anybody because you won't have the materials needed. It only takes a second to do this and might seem like an obvious point, but again, make sure you're gathering those resources. And to kind of connect this to the last point, Expeditions also will give you resources, so make sure you're doing those as well. Number 8, MonsterRarity. So speaking of scouting, each monster you scout is also not created equally, as there are different rarities behind them. You'll notice that in the scouting menu, different monsters will have different borders around them, and they go as follow from least rare to rarest: bronze, silver, gold, and rainbow. The more rare monsters seem to have better stats, so it'll be something you want to keep in mind when recruiting different monsters, and maybe if you see a gold or rainbow one pop up in your scouting menu, you might want to favorite it so it doesn't get recycled out. Number 9, railway stations. So littered throughout all of the islands, there will be various railway stations that you can unlock, and by doing so, it'll give you easier access to that specific island, allowing for multiple spawn points. Most of these will just require Sanguinite, which you can retrieve from the station master at the first railway station on any given island, and some type of resource that is found in the nearby vicinity. Obviously, this is nice because it'll allow you to start in different locations. It'll make it easier for you to get back when you need to get all of your treasure appraised, but there's also one feature to this that you might not know about. So when you send out a monster on an expedition, you can send them out to any of the islands. However, if you have multiple spawn points on an island, you can send them out to those specific spawn points. This will actually alter the type of loot they can find. So one station might have some sort of material on that list you're looking for, while another doesn't. So this can help you out with scouting as well. Number 10, save often. Okay, so this last one is super important because just like Dragon Quest XI, this game, when you die, you don't go back to the nearest spawn with all of your progress intact. You don't even lose your treasure. You lose all progression from the last save until that point. This includes any resources you found, monsters you've scouted, experience you've gained, etc. Not saving is a trap that is very easy to fall into, especially since the only way to save is at a campfire. So it's not like you can just do it from the menu whenever you want. That said, I do feel like this adds a little more excitement to the game because while losing your progress can be frustrating, it really gets your blood pumping in those high-risk situations. Either way, just make sure you're saving a lot so you don't fall victim to this mechanic. But yeah, all that being said, those were 10 tips and tricks for Dragon Quest treasures. Let me know in the comments what your tips and tricks are, and if you do want to stay up to date on all things monster taming, definitely like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord and my Patreon linked below. Special thanks to the patrons, especially Jim Hamilton, Dro Ghost, Dark Persona, and Exodus, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.